Howdy, howdy. Welcome to the Disruptive. Revisiting a topic that probably will come up a lot the course of the long. We've touched on it before. And so we want to talk about robotics because there's a lot of concern before. I think since the last time we talked about robots, they've kind of this weird. I haven't been there to see it, but I guess at McDonald's, when you go inside to place your order, you're now placing it to pretty much a robot. It's like a screen where you put your, so they've environmental and a vice president of Solar. They're with these two companies for 7 years, and we previous to that, Larry had been part of a big company that was also involved in recycling and holds patents and is an inventor, and so he's kind of on this hangout when we talk about these topics. However, at the same time, and following the new developments in technology, especially as they. So we started doing these hangouts in order to inspire and enlighten people to the opportunity that come with new technology. It closes another door. See all disrupt as positive, move forward and progress in life. So, do you want to bring your thoughts, developments that have been happening? Excuse me, with robotics since we.
I'm not sure. Your video signal is really shaky and your audio is all broken up. So that I know you mentioned you're talking about robotics. I'm not sure what your ending comments were, though. Your last comment. Hello? Hello? Are you still there?
Go ahead and talk.
Oh, okay. Talk about robots. Sure. Well, I guess what we've been discussing as of late was um, robots have kind of gotten a bad reputation through Hollywood and stuff. And we have been talking that if robots were a little more simpler and more designed to be tools for us to use, I think it would make a much more sense. Because we kind of stopped and we looked at what it is that humans really do the most as far as our physical work, and basically our physical work occurs from here down to here. And other than getting around by foot, there's not really much more that a human being does when it comes to work if it's not involving the mind. So I'm talking about manual labor pretty much. Um, a lot of manual labor is done with the arms, a human's arms. So whether they're hammering nails or digging ditches or even typing and writing, there's so many things that we do with our hands, constructing things, constructing machines, building machines. It's all done by hands. And so I think that we could possibly simplify the entire robotics industry by focusing more upon what it is that we would like robots to do for us, uh, rather than humanoid robots, because we already have a lot of humans on the planet. I don't think they really have to be. I don't think robots really have to look like humans. They should look like tools that are required for whatever labor tasks there is at hand. So that is the basis of what we've been thinking about. So when you consider a robot, think more along the lines of work that a robot would do. Um, I've seen robots that look like science fiction stuff, and they're pretty useless. They're not doing any work. They're doing pretty menial tasks like running, jumping, hopping, carrying a tray of drinks, stuff like that. Well, guess what? A robotic arm could carry a tray of drinks. Um, there's no real reason for a robotic arm to be jumping up and down. And so, if you focus on the if we were to focus on what it is that we would like robots to do for us, it's really a matter of just the arm part of the robot. And if the robot has to move, it can move on a wheel source, or it doesn't have to crawl like a lot of robots do. It can, our surfaces that we get around as human beings are generally pretty easy to navigate. You know, it's pretty easy to walk across your living room floor. It's pretty easy to walk down a sidewalk. There's a few things that we do as human beings, like going upstairs. And it's interesting when you consider that fact that as our population gets older, there's huge issues about people going up and downstairs as you become elderly. And so that is starting to be removed from our society. You're seeing a lot more ramps being installed on homes for the elderly, if elderly or people that suffer with mobility issues. And so if you were to consider how many jobs could be done simply by a robotic arm that's attached to something like a Segway device, or something that can keep its own balance through gyroscopes and boogie around and turn really easy, that I think would be a much smarter product for the robotics industry to start focusing on. And actually producing a product that people could use. I could use a hand right now doing something. Well, guess what? Here comes your robot. Your robot's on wheels. It's an arm. Doesn't have a face. Doesn't have feet. It's on wheels, and it shows up, and there it is. It's an arm with fingers, and whatever you're working on, this robotic arm could assist. Um, there's also some things that we've been considering regarding the new technology where robotic arms are capable, or robotics in general, are capable of learning things not on their own, but assisted. Essentially, I have been studying some robotic arms, and other robotics that are being used for simple tasks. I shouldn't say simple tasks, they're laborious labor tasks such as welding. Everybody knows what a welder does. Everybody who knows what a welder is, raise their hand. They're people that use oxyacetylene torches and all sorts of uh, heat devices for connecting metal to metal, and that process is welding. So that's what a welder does. So when you consider a welder, what his the welder's job is to connect pieces of metal together. So now they've got robots. Sorry, I keep saying robots. Now they got robotic arms that welders are actually able to use and teach how to do certain welding jobs. And it's so amazing because while watching these videos for these devices, it's almost like watching an adult train a child to do something, where instead of the child learning to tie his shoes on his own and you're instructing the child to do, most people know how difficult that is. You actually have to take the child's hands and let them follow your hands as you tie their shoelaces. So you're actually working their fingers, which is one of the rudimentary and earliest learning experiences there are for children. If you even look at feeding a child, how children learn to feed themselves, um, robots are capable of doing that as well. It's just the robotic arms are just that. They're such a necessary, or I shouldn't say necessary, but such an easy um, situation solver, or assistant to getting work jobs done, getting different types of jobs done. That to me, it just makes sense. And then once you have robotic arms that are mobile, you can design them not to just have a shoulder and an elbow and a wrist and fingers. You can design robotic arms to have 3 shoulders, 4 elbows, 6 wrists, and 50 fingers. It's a machine. And so that sort of way of thinking to me makes a lot more sense than designing something that looks humanoid, because that's totally dumb in my opinion, because we already have lots of humans. What we want to do is, I think a lot of people are, and the way a lot of society is going is using the robotic arms to actually do jobs for us, and so that we don't have to do them. And just a little addition to that statement of teaching the robot how to do welding, or robotic arm how to do certain welds on a piece of metal, they now have technology that I first saw my kids using with a thing called an Xbox, where they were actually playing a game where they were standing in front of a television or a big screen TV, and they were playing a game, and I could see their silhouettes on the television, but they weren't shadows. These were images being generated by the television itself. Well, this is a new, I think it's a relatively new technology, which is a sensor. And it it can actually see in three-dimensional your hand doing stuff like moving around. The sensor could be, if you think of it, my touchpad on my laptop here, which is right in front of me, being the sensor. I could be doing this with my hand. It can be transmitted by wire in real time, like actually as I move my fingers, connected to a robotic arm, which is doing precisely what I'm doing here, right at the same time I'm doing. If you search YouTube, you'll find these videos of robotic arms that are controlled by a sensor. I think later on we could provide links to that. I'm not sure how that works with a Google Hangout. But when I watched this technology, so many ideas started coming to my mind on how people could be doing their job at home while a robotic arm is at work, at their workplace. With a good broadband internet connection, this technology of using the sensor and going like this is has been it's generally simple. There's a camera that's hooked up to somewhere. If you imagine a camera on your hand, somewhere around here or maybe here on the top of your arm, that is where the camera sits on the robotic arm. So as you move your hand over your sensor, you can see what the robotic arm is reaching for, and it's amazing. You just move your hand forward on the over the sensor, you move closer, closer, and you can grab with the robotic arm as if you're grabbing it with your own fingers. The thing is, you're grabbing nothing here. It's the sensor transmitting the image of your hand doing this all the way to the robotic arm. Now consider this: that robotic arm could be handling something that's at 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 600 degrees Fahrenheit. It could be, and you could not do that with your bare hand. You don't feel anything with your hand except your hand touching itself. And so when you go like this, you can control how much pressure, I believe you can control how much pressure that the robotic arm and fingers of the robotic arm are actually applying to whatever it is that it's picking up. It's just amazing. And to me, that is still involving the human to do the work. You have to wake up and do stuff like this, and it moves things around. Very similar to moving the mouse around on your laptop or on your computer. You have to use a little physical effort to move your mouse around, although it's not a lot. It moves around your screen. And so this technology is now available for us to use with robotic arms. And so that in itself, I'm pretty sure, I'm not an expert at robotics at all, but I'm pretty doggone sure that if you're using your brain and simply using your motor skills like this to operate a robotic arm, you're probably saving a schwack of money in computing software and programming costs. And I think that's kind of what we've been discussing lately, and that's why we're having this hangout, is to discuss how disruptive that could be. And the disruption is a good disruption because it's getting rid of the fear of robots, which is, I don't know where the fear came from. It came from Hollywood, I think, and ghost stories and novels and stuff about robots and robots being able to think for themselves. Come on, everybody, smarten up. Robots do not think for themselves if you do not let them think for themselves. Robots are built by human beings, just like the shovel was built by a human being. Shovel's not going to think for itself. Neither will a robotic arm if we do not allow the robotic arm to think for itself. That being said, I rarely use that statement. That being said, it means that a robotic arm can also be taught to think for itself. if you want to spend the extra money on that computer software for it to learn. And I've watched this computer software at work, and it's not. It to me, it seems probably pretty expensive stuff. It's a pretty. It looks like a pretty sophisticated computerized system in order to teach the robot to start doing things on its own. So I think that's kind of what you had in mind, right, Tisha? It looks like you got a better signal because I can actually see you moving.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, when we started, I was talking about McDonald's using robots to take orders. I think it's kind of like the self-checkouts that they used to have at Walmart. They might still have those at Walmart, but virtually the self-checkouts and the order taking at McDonald's is maybe not necessarily robotic movement involved, but it's definitely AI, which are together. Artificial intelligence and robotics kind of go hand in hand. And like what you're talking about, like the robots now have the ability to learn, but they're only going to learn the things that they're programmed to learn. So it's all a matter of, I guess, the humans that are in charge of the robots that will decide what they do. But yeah, there's kind of two sides. There's and both of them are perpetuated by our mainstream media or mainstream media. So the one side is people's concern about AI being able to being able to turn against humans, and the other main issue, which is also like a fear-based reasoning that people have, is that robots are going to by right should be taken over by robots, in my personal opinion. Larry was talking about welding. Anybody who's had any experience with welding knows that it's a very hot, a very stinky, and a very dangerous job for people to be doing. And so so I feel that a task like that is much better fulfilled by a robot. However, at the same time, as a welder potentially losing his job to a robot, well, there still needs to be someone to be in control of that robot. So I think that possibly a lot of RC technology, which is radio control. So potentially welders out there could be from the comfort of their own home via the internet, wirelessly controlling their robots and doing the work without having to be on the site where they're put in the danger of like potentially like blindness from the bright lights. A lot of times welders have issues with their eyes because they have the protective mask, but there's oftentimes a temptation to lift up that dark glass and see what's happening, and then they suffer from something called welder's flash, which would not be an issue for a robot. So if you're a welder and you could be in the comfort of your own home, controlling that welding machine wirelessly from a computer, that's going to keep people out of harm's way, and at the same time make sure that the job is being performed correctly, and being able to identify like maintenance issues and stuff that may come up, because that's always a fact of the matter with machines. So although robots may, in the short term, take a lot of jobs, they'll also create a lot of jobs for maintenance and control and programming of the robots. So for me, I think it's all around a good thing. I don't have any fear about it.
That's amazing. I didn't even think about the welder's flash and the safety to the human's eyeballs, because the camera will not transmit that to a video screen. Really good point. So there's a huge safety issue, which would probably, a lot of people might not be thinking about this, big corporate insurance savings.
Well, definitely for the corporations, it is just a benefit in all directions. I watched something, I don't know where I watched it, but it was, they were talking about the blackout factory, and basically it was a big, a warehouse center where currently they have people running forklifts and having to select packages. A lot of it is done by conveyor belts, but they're still having humans to either by forklift or by hand pick items off the shelf and transfer them to those conveyor belts. And they're saying that within the next few years that there will be no humans in that building, which means that they can turn the lights off, because the robots don't need to see where they're going. They sense where they're going. They know how to read the barcodes of the packages and get the packages in the right places, and they're sent by conveyor belt to the right trucks to be at the right place at the right time. And yeah, having all robotic forklifts and robotic arms managing all the materials that go through this giant distribution center, loading trucks and train cars, it can be done in the dark, which means you don't have to pay as much for electricity.
Oh yeah.
So for factories.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is about that method too, the software and programming for that sort of system is not very expensive, simply because it's very repetitive. Product comes in, product goes out. And that believe it or not would also work in grocery stores. Think about how much what's the main thing that humans do is eat. It's a huge part of what humans do. And so are you still there? So anyways, Trish has left us for a sec. I was going to just mention that by using robots, like you say, at night, they could start stocking shelves as soon as the store closes. There's no need for people to be there. However, there might be issues for example, produce. I've noticed that a lot of produce is handled and placed with care by human beings when they're restocking the shelves. So maybe it would be smart to have those late night jobs or at closing time, where you do need that sort of hands-on effort to get the job done. That's where the robots that are controlled remotely with the sensor, where some people could be doing it. People could be doing that on the other side of the world when it's nighttime here. They could wake up in the morning on the other side of the planet when we're going to bed, and they would start working at stocking our shelves. And we could do the same thing for them when they're going to bed. So you would have no reason to have people working at night. In a lot of jobs, you would not need night shift workers, except for stuff like ambulances and real crucial things. But all this stocking of stores happens at night. That's when it takes place, at night.
Did you have thoughts or
That's so that's when they start restocking the stores, and so you could use the robotic arms for. You could use. I don't know where Trish is. She's kind of disappeared, so I'll just continue with what I was saying. You can have people on the other side of the world doing nighttime jobs for us here, and we could be doing nighttime jobs for them over there. And that wouldn't that be something, when you talk about a global economy, rather than have people working at night, they could actually be sleeping. And which I think is a much healthier way to live. If people are sleeping at night and working during the day, you know, the internet is going to make it possible for us to do that kind of stuff with robotic arms and robotic systems. And, you know, eventually these little jobs where you're doing with the sensors and stuff, from what I understand, robotics can actually, with the computer software, robotics can actually start learning the things. I've actually seen them teach a robotic arm how to catch anything by teaching it how to catch. Just like teaching your child how to play softball by throwing a ball back and forth, back and forth. That starts at a really young age with kids. And apparently, the child is born with not a blank memory system, because they have to have, well, all their bodily functions and the way their bodies work are very, very simple, and but there's something there. So it would be very similar to teach robotic arms to do the same thing, and once they know it, they can do it on their own. However, I don't think robotics really ever get the chance to think for themselves unless they, you know, unless you program the robotic to actually do that, which I think that's a little bit nuts, because why bother? Like, is there really a need to have a robot think for itself? For some things, it makes things easier, but you have to figure out where to draw the line. If safety becomes an issue with robots learning to do things for themselves, you got to put a limit on it. You have to put a limit on what that robotic arm can do. A lot of people start thinking about safety issues regarding robots. Well, I've just been catching up on some recent stuff from FANUC. They're one of the biggest robotics organizations on the planet, and they're probably the first one I found out about that was doing things that made sense, in my opinion. And anyways, one of their new robots is actually able to sense a human or anything else by simply touching it, and that's pretty amazing. That means if the robotic arm was to swing, doing a job, swing the arm, that the arm was uh, in a swinging situation, and a human being was in its way, that new technology would stop the arm as soon as it senses the human being there. This is better than actual human capabilities. A human being in that situation would have a bit difficult time slowing down and stopping uh, without being able to see where its arm is swinging. So it's really, really starting to open my eyes where things are going to be going here in the very near future. And of course, our companies are both planning for these changes, these new robotic changes that are going to make sense. You know, it's going to be, I think it's really the smart choice from an industry or a corporate or a business level to really be starting to think about robotic technology in a simpler fashion, in something that's not so complex as a humanoid type of robot. Just because a humanoid, for reason number one, humanoid robots are not necessary. They are absolutely not necessary. If there's people in the world that feel they want to have companionship from a robot, I got really bad news. They're not going to get actual companionship from a robot. They're gonna get a servant with limited capabilities, and I think that I really feel that is not a sick way of going about robotics. However, to me, I think it's a little unethical, because it's actually eliminating human beings. It's a path of eliminating the human race, which is to me completely stupid. We're gonna do fine. We're time. I think that are using the robots as tools and keep them well under control. And that I really think it's a good idea not to have them capable of learning continuously on their own. There should be some sort of limit where there's safeguards. So that would be the way to go about it, in my opinion. I'm not sure where Trish is right now. She might be having technical problems. And oh, I think she's back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, where'd you go?
Oh, well, I'm just gonna leave my camera off because it keeps cutting out. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Did you hear anything about what I was saying? Hello? Okay. Sounds like Trish has got a real bad connection today. I don't know why. Might be the heat. It's really hot. We're in this region that we're in. So what else was I going to mention about robotic arms? As I mentioned before, I think the robotic arm has to have limitations. Um, the ability for robotic arms to sense touch, I think, is a huge thing. Now, if they can, if the robotics industry could come up with the robotic arm, like I say, using the FANUC or FANUC, I can't remember how it's pronounced, technology from that robotic organization where it senses things, human contact. I think that's a very good thing. That has been an issue with robotic arms for ever since they started working with robotic arms, is that they're kind of dumb, where they don't have any respect for human or life forms. If they're working and a human gets in their way, it's like jumping in front of a train. The train can stop. The robotic arm can stop, but it probably takes a serious effort for it to do so. So that technology regarding the robotic arm is very important, so that if it can sense touch, that may mean that it can also sense delicate things when operating, so that the sensor technology could probably work more efficiently or with less effort than having it operate on its own. I really like the idea of humans just being able to move their body parts in order to get robotics to do their thing. I really think that Xbox technology, when I saw that, I thought, wow, this is really taking it to the next level. And that's basically being used for games. But as you can see on the internet, if you search YouTube, you'll find this sensor. I could research what it is but I have it saved somewhere. It's a specific company that's manufacturing that sensor that's used in the Xbox system. It's really very innovative technology, and who knows what's next? We could be going like this with over a sensor, and the next thing might be possibly thought controlling robotics other than a sensor. I find that to be kind of a stretch, like a long ways off. That thought can actually control a robot, 100% of a robotic arm. I think that's a long ways off. I think it'd be uh, quicker for first the robotic arm to be able to do things repetitively on its own with a simple program, and of course using the sensor with the hand motion controlling a robotic arm. And something with that we do with our hands is we can do a lot of very intricate, gentle stuff. And so robotic arms can also do that as long as you have a good video, as a good video feed to the person operating the robotic arm through the sensor. I'm not sure if it would be possible to actually put sensors onto the robotic arm on its fingertips so that humans could put sensors on their fingertips and sense pressure that the robotic arm is sensing. So to explain,
Okay,
hello?
we'll try this. Yeah, that technology exists. They're using it for prosthetics. They have some really pretty awesome robot prosthetics or prosthetics. I don't know how you say it, but you know, that for people amputees.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is. I think you know it's. I'm not. I'm sure that it would be able to conduct the sense of a person's hand to the robot hand because they're able to send brain waves directly to circuitry within the prosthetic, and it is able to feel the pressure and some sensation. And so I'm not too sure how far the technology is at the moment, but I'm sure continue to improve. And in that regard, there was something else I wanted to mention that I seen. Can't remember where it was. Somewhere in Europe, though, they have a robot that is kind of acting as like a nursemaid. It's one of these robots that you kind of are not so much in favor of. It's a humanoid type robot, and this is to aid the nursing staff, not so much with their duties as nurses, like administering drugs and stuff, but more as providing some of the bedside manner. So I guess this little robot in this hospital in Europe will play games with the patients and have like simple conversations with the patients, and like can do simple functions like, you know, pick things up for them or that kind of thing. So I think that as much as you're not for it, I think that higher amongst the marketplace for these humanoid type robots to kind of serve in a servant capacity, like butlers or maids, or I seen one that they had created to be like a pet. So it kind of dog, but it had this like hand coming arm, extra arm coming out of its back, like behind its head. They had it washing and putting stuff away on shelves and that kind of thing. And so I think for people, for industry, definitely there's no need to add a human look or element to the robots. But for individuals that are looking at having them do like those household chores, it seems like the desire is for it to be almost like a companion, and that's why they're making so many of the robots as human form, or even to move, so that people feel that kind of companionship at the same time. And I think from what I've seen, the absolute best robotic technology that exists right now, and the reason I think that it's the best, the most advanced of the robotics, is because there's the most demand for it. And it's kind of sad to say, but it's truly for these sex robots. You get the idea. Like it used to be the blow up doll that you know the bachelors would carry around at the and I'm sure people in home had those. Now anybody that was interested in that kind of thing is going to be wanting to move towards robot companions for that capacity. And it's kind of weird to me that that's the case, but that truly the band for me as a woman. I see it as a wonderful thing because in our society, there's a lot of, unfortunately and sad to say, but there's a lot of deviant behavior, and a lot of that leads towards violence towards women. And so if there's men out there that these sexually aggressive behaviors, then in my mind, really, is part of the robot conversation. Do you have any comments about that? No. Well, as much as you just want to see robotic arms and functional robots, the marketplace is demanding something different.
Well, what the marketplace wants already exists, and it has existed for a long time.
To a point, I think as far as disruptive technology, yes, it does exist. However, the issue is, like with anything for new technology, is that initially any new technology is typically unattainable by your average citizen. And then as time goes on and the technology gets better, more efficient, and less expensive, then it becomes more accessible to people. So for me, everything robotics is a good thing. Humanoid robotics, or they're just functional robots, I think that they will serve us better than we can even imagine. I have no fear whatsoever about AI or loss of employment due to robot technology. I think it just opens way more doors of opportunity for everyone on the planet. Right, Willie? Robots are awesome.
Yeah.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, did you have anything else to say?
You know, we could debate that all night long as far as what a machine can provide for a person, whether it's a sexual need or companionship. I think that's why they invented teddy bears, was to give.
There's no debate. It's a fact. That's how people are using them already.
Sure.
And so that's just going to continue.
Okay.
Whether you like it or not, that's just a fact. There's no debate. There's no need to debate anything.
Well, I don't think it really matters if I like it or not either, because
Yeah, exactly. I don't necessarily agree with it personally, but definitely an advantage. I only see positives when it comes to robotics, that's for sure.
any which way you slice it, though, a person with a machine, a person with a sex toy, a person with a teddy bear is still alone. You know, even if they have a pet rock, they're still alone. If they have a dog,
What does that have to do with robots?
well, I'm talking more about
that's how people are using them. It's not that they're not alone because they have a robot. They're still alone. But I don't know. Some people would consider that they're alone when they have a dog or a cat with them.
possibly.
There's no need to talk about this in regards to robots. I don't think. It's just a fact of what's happening with it.
Oh,
Just a fact. So as far as like what you're talking about the sensation, I think technology ability to control the robot and feel what the robot is doing, that technology is going to be brought forward and progressed more quickly because of some of the desires of how people want to use them for creating sensation. So it'll work both ways. So be able to do like to have robotics that are sensitive, that can feel whether it's good to put on the shelf or whether it's substandard and needs to be put to the side for humans to inspect or clean up or whatever's required to make it stockable kind of thing. So I think between their abilities to see, because with robots, any robot can potentially have multiple forms of vision, like infrared and night vision and all these things that the human eye isn't capable of detecting can be programmed into a machine, right? So these robots will be able to see all kinds of stuff that the humans wouldn't be able to. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Right? I can't hear you.
I didn't say anything. I just said I was just agreeing with you.
Why don't you say something?
Uh, to comment on what you just said, um, I guess
No.
I guess you're right. I I think I when you were off, I kind of put everything I had out there already, and I reviewed some of the other stuff already. I think the robotic arm is still makes a lot more sense. It's simple. It's more cost effective, and we could get a lot more robotic arms working out there, so that maybe human beings aren't working so much that they can actually spend time with each other and have sex, and leave their robots at work doing the job that they don't have to do anymore. So, that I think would help society a lot if people were able to work less and have more leisure time. They wouldn't be interested in having a sex robot for a companion because, hey, what you doing? You're actually talking to a human being because you're not having to go to work. And we all know on how work um, relationships are kind of frowned upon in a lot of companies, and
And
say,
then, and it can be very difficult for people that are working to find time for to find a partner while they're happening. Definitely social media, that's a lot. Like almost everybody I talk to says that, well, I'm on Facebook to see what my family's doing because I'm too busy working to drive over to their house and see what they're doing. It's the fact of the matter. So
yeah,
definitely replacing some of this menial mindless work with robots, like taking orders at McDonald's, replacing that like degrading work with robots. I'm all for it. I think it'll free up people's time to get real socialization instead
yeah,
of media socialization, which is controlled. The socialization that socialization media is controlled, just like your telecontrolled picture. If you don't own that website, your picture, your whatever you put there belongs to the website that you posted it on. And so you've kind of are out of touch and out of control in that situation. Whereas a face-to-face communication, there's touch and control. So definitely free, people having more free time is awesome. So it's been kind of a little bit of a rough hangout, very loose. We didn't really have a lot planned because we know how big this topic is. So there's lots of different angles and issues. So we'll definitely revisit robotics again on the Disruptive Technology Hangout. So and then some technical difficulties with internet failing, and so I missed a little bit of it. I guess I can go back and watch the replay and see what all there was talking about that I missed, because I kind of probably took us way off on a tangent that had nothing to do what you talked about earlier, but I wasn't sure what you were talking about. So anyway, this is an interesting one to post up there. Did you have any final thoughts? We're just about at the top of the hour, Larry.
um, Yeah, on similar level too. When you think about mass production of robotic arms, I think it would be a faster, a more efficient and faster way of developing an industry of robotic arms too, because a lot of them are going to be identical, and it could be like the Ford production line, Henry Ford's production line, just robotic arm after robotic arm, and possible some with the sensors and some with software. But generally, the robotic arms are gonna all there'll be there should be one main design, and you just pump out a whole bunch of them, lots. And if one's not,
one for every human being, and then
one
then
for every human body part. Like
we all
these things will be everywhere, man.
so we all just
Yeah, lots. Lots of robotic arms for everyone.
so we can all just sit at I'll stay at home this term. I'll make sure that it's doing its work the way it's supposed to for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But awesome. So yeah, we'll definitely touch on this topic again. We do these hangouts generally every Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and yeah, so what are we at? We're like six. This is the 60-second hangout that we've done. So anyway, we're just visiting robotics on the Disruptive Technology Hangout, and we'll be back Thursday. I just want to into our Empower Hour call tonight with the Aldos. Mike and Michelle are going to tell us about their adventures RVing across the USA. They've had some great success with internet marketing. So if you're not aware, our culture is being disrupted by online commerce. So the internet has created a lot of sales for all kinds of products and services via the internet, and the Empower Network getting allowing people to have skills to go on and earn commissions by selling and sharing information. So if you're on our free energy page, there's a button below, or if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to listen to the replay if you click the link below, and hear about internet marketing and how you can start earning commissions online, making sales from the comfort of your own home or anywhere that you can access the internet. So I'll leave it at that. Hop on the Empower Hour, it's gonna be awesome. So before I go, I want everybody to know that I'm a firm believer that in this life, absolutely anybody can be doing and have anything they want, or we can have everything we want. I can help you. So click the link to find out how. Have an amazing day in the future. I'll see you out in the pasture. Bye, Larry.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So long.